Candymonium at Hershey Park is Hershey Park's newest roller coaster to open until next year. This coaster opened back in 2020 and is one of their many roller coasters. This one being their second coaster built by B&M and their second hyper roller coaster. This ride is a very fun ride with some great floater airtime. This is what these B&M Hypers are. But in today's video, I'm going to be giving my in-depth thoughts on this B&M Hyper Coaster and recommend it to go out to ride it and really where this ride really does shine throughout the layout and whatever seats I choose. Candymonium stands at a height of 210 feet, so it is on the shorter side for B&M Hypers. A lot of these newer Hypers tend to hover around the 200 foot mark. It features, of course, that classic 200 foot drop, featuring quite a few moments of airtime. There's even one moment of ejector airtime on the ride, and the ride features a very unique layout, especially the ending. Actually, B&M's first ever time going for like an off-axis style airtime hill. But overall, the ride is a pretty short ride for what it is, unlike many other B&M Hypers. This ride can also run 3 trains, but I'm gonna nitpick the ride operations in a few minutes here. So when you do go to ride Candymonium, this is right smack dab in the front of the park. This is a ride that you probably will want to hit later on throughout the day. Many locals who go to Hershey Park call the hours around between 3 and 5 Candymonium dead time because there's no line. It's pretty easy to marathon as the rest of the people are in the back of the park. So that's why I say to hit this attraction later on. In fact, I didn't hit Candymonium until like around 7 p.m. at nighttime, and it was still a walk-on. So yeah, definitely that's one thing to look forward to when you are going to ride this hyper coaster. The entrance for this ride is actually really cool with a giant Candymonium sign, and the queue line is also fully indoors, which is really nice, especially when you're out in that hot summer sun, especially when there's no clouds out. The lines can get really annoying to wait in. I'm talking about Fahrenheit here. But the only issue I really have, it's not really themed, it's really just stylized with like really colorful walls and like wrappers of like Reese's and Hershey's stuff. I mean, this ride is themed to candy, of course. When you do reach that station, you are actually allowed to request for a row. They will assign rows, but most of the time, at least when I rode the ride, they were accepting ride requests. So I got to do this ride 5 times, twice in the front, twice in the back, and I didn't get a middle ride, but I know what the front and back are like. The only thing about the B&M trains that this ride featured I'm going to nitpick is the seatbelts. This is the first ever B&M Hyper I've personally done with seatbelts, and these are weird retractable seatbelts. Now, I didn't find them to hinge any of the airtime that this coaster featured, because I still felt the same amount of airtime that I would feel on a ride like Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. But they are really uncomfortable to wear, especially at first, but I was able to figure out how to wear them properly. It is a bit interesting, but I haven't experienced the Cedar Fair seatbelts, because apparently some of the older Hypers that feature seatbelts are a little different. These are very similar to Orion and Kings Island. I don't know, they're just a nuisance and really do delay the operations. But besides that, let's get into the ride experience. When you leave the station, you're going to climb a 210 foot lift hill, get a beautiful view of the surrounding area. It's a really beautiful area of the park that this ride's located. And then you're going to plunge down that 200 foot drop. This ride gives an amazing pull in the back row. You get an amazing moment of what I can almost say is ejector airtime in the back of the train. The front of the train gets really good floater going on this first drop. After this first drop, you're going to go into one of my favorite moments, of course, the 5-second camelback. This is very similar and feels the exact same to Mako's first big massive 5-second camelback hill. After that, you're going to drop down into the hammerhead turnaround. This is a very fast-paced turnaround. Personally, I would have probably liked one more element probably before this turnaround, but they had very limited space. But overall, the turnaround is pretty intense actually. And then you're going to go into another airtime melt. This time, this one does have a trim, but I didn't find the trim to hit at all really that bad. On most of my rides. There was only one time where it actually hit pretty hard, but it still gave some pretty good floater airtime. After that is the moment of ejector airtime, at least that I got to experience. This is the speed hill. This is a very fun moment of airtime. And then after that, you're going to go into an upwards helix. Now, this is where this ride kind of deviates from Mako, because before that, Both of the rides are very similar except for two elements. You're going to take an off-axis airtime hill after this upwards helix, and let me tell you one thing, it's a weird moment of floater airtime, but it's a lot of fun. I thought this gave some nice lateral airtime. It was a pretty fun element. After that, you're going to go into another trimmed airtime hill. In the front of the train, you actually get a pretty strong moment of floater airtime, but in the back, you don't really get too much airtime. This is very similar to Mako's Nitro Hill after its mid-course, but this one does give a bit more airtime than that one. After that, you're going to go into a helix around the Kisses fountain. Really cool visual if you look at it, but if you don't, it's really just to turn around the train. Then you're going to go pop up into another weird weird turn hill that actually gives a good moment of floater airtime if you're in the front of that train. And then you're going to pop up into your final brake run type thing. But it's kind of like a mid-course in a way, and then you drop down another 180-degree turn into your actual final brake run. And there's your ride experience on Mako. Now, right before I give Candymonium its final score, I want to nitpick this ride's operations. This ride does not have really good operations. Compared to the other hyper coasters I've done by B&M, this ride really does suffer with ride operations. This ride tends to run 3 trains almost every day. When I was there, my one day at Hershey Park, it was running all 3 trains, but they weren't running 3 trains like how you would think they would. They were double stacking every time. I saw only one time throughout that full day that I watched Candymonium run them not stack 2 trains. They were double stacking every time, and it just got ridiculous. And the average dispatches were like up to 3 minutes at some points. So that just kind of shows you that those seatbelts really do add so much time onto these dispatches. And it doesn't help because let's compare it to a very similar ride. Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. They only staffed the load platform with 2 ride operators, and they can get a train out before a train hits the mid-course. They actually do that quite often on a normal busy day. That just shows you that those seatbelts put so much time into dispatches, and they're so unnecessary. But besides that, I don't really care. This ride is still amazing. Personally, right now, this is my favorite, actually, B&M Hyper, just by a slim margin in front of Mako right now. Now, recently, I did get back on Mako, and I got some amazing night rides. I'm still thinking about it, but as of now, this is my favorite B&M Hyper just by a slim margin. So, of course, it's going to get a perfect 10 out of 10. It is probably the only B&M Hyper other than Mako that I can actually give a perfect 10 right now. And honestly, this ride's amazing. You got to go to Hershey Park and check this ride out. It is so much fun. So many great moments of airtime. It's a fun ride that everyone will love, and I guarantee you that more people will enjoy this ride than Skyrush, because Skyrush is a very polarizing roller coaster. I love Skyrush though. But overall, that will be today's video on Mako at SeaWorld Orlando. I meant Candymonium at Hershey Park. I wonder how many times I've said that, called this ride Mako. I don't know, they're so similar to each other. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tell me what your guys' thoughts are on Candymonium, and I'll see you guys in the next video, and bye.